A country girl's soul has unexpectedly transplanted into a boy's body. Upon waking, she is shocked by the unfamiliar room around her. In her panic, she notices her flat chest, adding to her confusion. She tries to calm herself by thinking it's all just a dream. But then, suddenly, she realizes that not only the sun rises in the morning, indeed, without any prior signs, a boy and a girl from distant places have switched bodies. The girl, named Rose, lives in a remote Kansai town called Kishumachi. Her mother, Lily, passed away early due to illness, and her father has left home. Poor Rose and her sister Candy rely solely on their grandmother Green for care. During dinner, the TV news reports a comet, appearing once every 1,200 years, will illuminate the Earth in a month. What seems like a fascinating astronomical event might turn into a source of disaster. The morning sunlight gently bathes the small town. Rose's best friend, Butterfly, thinks Rose seems normal today, complimenting her well-done hair. John, standing nearby, jokes that yesterday's Rose must have been possessed by a spirit. However, Rose can't understand their conversation, looking puzzled. She then encounters her father, the town mayor, giving a speech. The locals whisper that the mayoral election will surely go to Rose's father, claiming it's all prearranged. This leads to some classmates ostracizing and despising Rose. In class, Rose is startled to find, "Who are you?" written in her notebook, and she barely listens to Ms. Snow's lecture. When called upon, her innocent expression prompts Ms. Snow to jest. It seems Ms. Rose remembers her name today. Rose feels increasingly strange, wondering why everyone thinks something was wrong with her yesterday, when all she had was a bizarre dream. Imagining her own awkwardness, she grows tired of everything in Kishumachi. The small and isolated town cannot carry the dreams of youth. Rose eagerly wants to graduate and move to Tokyo. The family shrine customs and her father's political campaigns repel her, pushing her worries to the extreme. Here, a tram comes only every 2 hours, convenience stores close before 9 p.m., and there are neither bookstores nor cafes. The uninteresting taverns, however, number 2. The girl's complaints and grievances are headache-inducing. Forget those. Shall we go to a cafe? A cafe? Where's that? It turns out the so-called cafe is just a vending machine around the corner. Butterfly sympathizes with Rose's plight, having to face sorrow at what should be the happiest age. John casually remarks, "Well, she is the heroine, isn't she? I seriously suspect this kid has peeked at the script. His own future looks bleak too, destined to inherit the family business and follow a set path. Escaping the town is a wish common to all young people. As night falls, the lights are still on at Rose's house. Her grandmother teaches her granddaughter to tie knots, each twist and turn carrying 1,000 years of Kishumachi's history. The grandmother, head of the shrine, scolds Rose's father, calling him a foolish son-in-law who abandoned Lily's devoted priesthood for politics. The old lady doesn't understand the depth of his foolish love. Meanwhile, the father is busy with election schmoozing, confidently securing votes after a few cups of sake. John from next door feels that the adult's social interactions are rife with corruption. His father criticizes him for doing nothing and orders him to help with the Y demolition at the construction site tomorrow. John's family owns the largest construction company in town, and he clearly does not want to be part of it. Gazing at the power station in the dark, silent forest, its lights shine like John's undying dreams. Rose and her sister dress as shrine maidens and participate in shrine activities. The most important ritual involves chewing sake, believed to contain the soul of one's partner. The crackling of the stars seems like the gods are watching everything. They chew sticky rice and spit it into a jar. Classmates mock the idea of drinking such sake, but Candy, Rose's sister, has a brilliant business idea. She thinks that marketing it as beautiful shrine maidens' hand-chewed sake could be a hit. Indeed, the impulsive little sister has a knack for business. Rose shouts into the mountains, fed up with her life here, pleading to be reborn as a handsome man in Tokyo next life. The gods might never have seen such an odd request. Meanwhile, in Tokyo, the morning sunlight enters the room, and the vibration of a phone wakes Dragon from her sleep. She falls from the bed, accustomed to sleeping on the floor. Today, the boy was supposed to cook, but he overslept, and his father scolds him. Rose, in the boy's body, apologizes, surprising the father, as his son never says such things. The text message about plant confuses Rose Dragon, and the manly sitting posture seems cute. It feels like a realistic dream. As she opens the door, Rose's dreamy Tokyo appears before her. Tall buildings under the clear sky and the bustling traffic are worlds apart from her town. Rose is amazed. It feels as real as a dream can get. Arriving late, Rose stands dumbfounded at the classroom door, facing unfamiliar faces. Someone from behind puts a hand on her shoulder. It's Plant, Dragon's high school friend. His effeminate posture and dialect seem odd to his friends today. They plan to go to a cafe, which excites Rose to the point of tears. The cafe, with its charming dog, exquisite decor, and a menu pricey enough to astonish Rose, offers a coconut sponge cake for 1,600 yen, equivalent to Rose's monthly allowance. What is ordinary food for others appears incredibly luxurious to her. She marvels at this wonderful dream, but her phone reminds her it's time to work. Yet Rose doesn't know where Dragon works part-time. This unusual amnesia shocks Plant. After some effort, San finally found the Italian restaurant Kotonoha no Niwa. However, as a girl with no work experience, it was no surprise that she was all over the place. Serving the wrong dishes became her most common mistake. Rose complained, "When will I wake up from this dream?" At that moment, a table of customers stopped Rose. Some ruffians had put a toothpick in the pizza to trouble her. Rose retorted, "How could there be a toothpick in an Italian restaurant?" A man angrily slammed the table to intimidate Rose. Just then, Kron stepped in to defuse the situation by offering a free meal, which calmed the drama. The man, eyeing the attractive Kron, discreetly pulled out a box cutter. After closing, Rose kept thanking Kron. A waitress saw something unbelievable. Kron's skirt was cut, and the location was quite sensitive. The young girl felt both angry and embarrassed, her face turning bright red instantly. Rose gathered her courage, took Kron's hand, and led her into the break room. "Please take off your skirt," she said. "Oh no, I'll turn around," she added quickly. Dragon, skilled and tactful, earned Kron's approval and praise. The pattern was from Rose's pencil case, but what Rose didn't know was that Dragon actually had a crush on Kron. This incident brought them much closer. On the way home, Rose looked at the boy reflected in the glass, unable to distinguish between dreams and reality anymore. Dragon's phone contained a diary, and Kron appeared in the photo album. Could it be unrequited love? Rose found this boy cute and interesting, recalling the phrase on her notebook, "Who are you?" She decided to write her name on the palm of the boy's hand. The Tokyo night was brightly lit, seemingly a different world from her town. The next day, Dragon was back to normal, but panicked upon seeing the name on his palm. The diary had new entries. Plant joked, "This guy actually remembered where he works today." Dragon thought Plant had tampered with his phone. The boy was cornered by his friends at the restaurant. Kron was everyone's goddess, and Dragon had spent so much time alone with her, even walking her home. The single guy speculated that Dragon and Kron might have pulled a fast one. Just then, Kron arrived, dressed stunningly. Beauty for the sake of those who enjoy it seemed apt as Kron even threw a flirtatious look at Dragon, leaving the boy utterly unable to explain. Meanwhile, Rose woke up to find her arm covered in writing. As she walked into the classroom, her classmates exclaimed, "Rose is normal today," because the day before, under the influence of the law, she had made a shocking move by kicking over a desk. This tomboyish display had transformed Rose into Big Boss Rose. The girl who knew the truth felt insane, and the notebook was full of Dragon's writings and drawings. Both realized that this was not a dream. Based on their experiences, their bodies would switch 2 to 3 times a week unexpectedly, usually while sleeping. If they stayed up all night, they might be able to exploit a bug, though Mr. Cheng would not allow it. Thus, the high school student living in Tokyo and the small village girl Rose continued to experience each other's lives in a time-space crossover. The memories of their body swaps would gradually fade upon waking. Initially, I thought it was a dream. My friends confirmed that we were indeed experiencing a soul-swapping phenomenon. To avoid disrupting each other's lives, we decided to record everything done after each swap. Despite saying no, our bodies reacted honestly. Dragon, unaware of a girl's shyness, won a basketball game without wearing a bra, posing coolly and impressively. Rose, on the other hand, continued to spend money freely, though she also started working to cover some expenses. The two bantered like a couple in love, growing closer through daily exchanges. Dragon gradually fell in love with the life in the remote mountains, doing things not typically done by girls. Rose learned to handle life in Tokyo with ease. On the day of another soul swap, Dragon had learned to wear a bra. Although Rose forbade him from touching her chest, the boy's muscle memory had formed. The feisty little sister, frustrated, slammed the door in response, a door that would have preferred to rot in the factory. On October 14th, as the comet approached perihelion, Rose, dressed in her school uniform, puzzled her sister and grandmother. It was the day to visit the shrine. The scenery along the way was enchanting, with sunlight filtering through autumn leaves, lightly dappling the ground. The mountains, painted in a myriad of colors, seemed like a paradise. Dragon, carrying his frail grandmother, walked along the dragonfly-laden mountain path. The nearby Lake Keishimizu shimmered. Dragon's forehead began to sweat as his grandmother told him about the shrine's history and the origin of all beings, spiritual birth, the intertwining of human relationships and the flow of time, referred to as karma in Buddhism and Tao in Taoism, led them past a rocky hill to an open area, the Miyamizu family's shrine, created by a meteorite 1,000 years ago. The creek flowing there resembled the mythical river Styx, leading to the hidden world. Their purpose today was to offer the chewed rice wine of Rose and candy at the shrine. A gentle breeze played with Rose's hair. Dragon held the soul of his other half as time quietly passed. By the time they returned, the daylight was fading, casting a soft golden glow across the landscape. Thin rays of light penetrated the misty air, creating a serene atmosphere. Looking at Lake Keishimizu now, it seemed like a heavenly pond. As Rose murmured about the comet, her grandmother, as if seeing through everything, asked if she was dreaming. Suddenly, the server was interrupted. Dragon was startled awake from his bed, tears already in his eyes. In a half-asleep daze, he was drawn back to reality by the sound of a message notification on his phone. It turned out that Rose had arranged a meeting for Dragon with the senior Kron. The boy quickly got ready and hurried out. Meanwhile, Rose woke up feeling inexplicably sad. When Dragon met the charming and mature Kron, and as Rose tied her hair, tears flowed uncontrollably as if something was missing from her heart, leaving an aching void. Dragon, inexperienced in dating, found the date excruciating. At the art museum, a painting of Lake Keshi captivated him for a long time, while Kron sensed that today's Dragon seemed like a different person. She openly expressed her sixth sense that Dragon used to like her, but now he seemed to have feelings for someone else. The uncomfortable date abruptly ended, and Kron left in the evening glow. At that moment, Dragon noticed he had Rose's hair tie on his wrist. As night fell, Rose sent Dragon a message suggesting that he might see the comet after the date. Dragon's emotions intensified, and he was overwhelmed with thoughts of Rose. He tried to call her, but her voice did not come through, and there was no comet in the sky as expected. When Rose woke up, it was dusk. John informed her about the autumn festival. He had always harbored feelings for Rose, while Butterfly liked John. In the bright evening lights, both were stunned upon seeing Rose, who had cut her long hair. Perhaps for dry Rose, Dragon and Kron's date marked the end of her own emotions, cutting away her ties to find inner peace. The evening breeze carried a silent sorrow. The comet, visible in the night sky, trailed a long tail, creating a dreamlike scene. But before Rose could make a wish, the comet split apart. Dragon could not reach her by phone, adding to his sense of loss and sudden heartache. He had planned to share his thoughts with her during their next body swap, but for some unknown reason, they had not swapped bodies since that day. His longing intensified, and he nearly broke down when he lost contact with Rose. Driven by a vague memory, Dragon repeatedly sketched everything about Rose, losing interest in everything else. He researched mountains and locations, revising his drafts. Although life went on routinely, Dragon's heart yearned only for the silent Rose. Unable to suppress his longing, Dragon decided to search for Shiju Town, the heavenly pond, and the girl who haunted his dreams, Rose. Unexpectedly, Senior Kron and Tengjing thought Dragon was meeting an online girlfriend and accompanied him to avoid a potential scam, much to Dragon's annoyance. He insisted he was not a child, and having downloaded the National Anti-Fraud Center app, was not overly worried. To Kron and C's surprise, Dragon had no idea where the town was. The only clue was a landscape from his dreams. After the tram stopped, Dragon began asking around, while the other two seemed to be on a honeymoon, wandering aimlessly without finding any clues. Dragon felt dejected and was almost in despair. However, Kron and Sai argued that giving up now would waste all their previous efforts. Dragon retorted, accusing them of acting like newlyweds on a honeymoon and doing nothing helpful. While unsure of their next steps, the owner of a noodle shop recognized the painting Dragon held. The man's eyes were filled with nostalgia and shock. When they finally found Shiju Town after much difficulty, the scene was devastatingly bleak. Police tape and signs stood like needles, painfully piercing Dragon's heart. The joy of the search was torn apart by overwhelming emotions of shock and sadness. Plant then remembered that 3 years ago, Dreamstar had split, and a meteorite had struck a village, killing hundreds. It must have been this place. Dragon refused to accept this reality. Everything about this place and the high school was vivid in his memory. Just 2 weeks ago, he had seen Rose's diary. However, as Dragon checked his messages, Rose's entries were eerily disappearing until everything was erased. The boy felt a chill. From the library's materials, they discovered the truth. In October 3 years ago, the comet was closest to Earth. No one could have predicted that the comet would break apart at its closest approach. The fragment that fell struck the gathering place of a local festival on October 4th at 20:04, killing 2/3 of the town's population, over 7,500 people. When Dragon opened the death register, his hands trembled uncontrollably. John. Butterfly. Is this the person? You must be mistaken. This person died 3 years ago. But she spoke to me about seeing the comet just 2 or 3 weeks ago. So, am I dreaming? What am I doing? Kron, lighting a cigarette he hadn't smoked in years, had come to see Dragon in a new light in recent days. Romantically steadfast, passionately heart-wrenching. But the past messages in Dragon's phone never returned, and his memory began to blur. Whose knot was on his wrist, and her name had suddenly vanished from his mind, as if erased by a deity. Were all these events just fantasies and dreams? Yet why does my heart ache so much that I can't breathe? The mournful moon was half covered in frost, casting a chilling light. A boy, exhausted, slumped over his desk, faintly heard Rose calling out in the haze, "Dragon, don't you remember?" When Kron awoke, the sun was already high in the sky. Dragon had left a farewell note and embarked on his journey alone. In that moment, Kron deeply loved Dragon, but had to let him go. The car headed north, with distant thunder rumbling and a sudden downpour. Dragon, with firm steps in the muddy path, sought shelter from the rain in a cave. There, he planned his route, nibbling on a bowl of rice given by an old man. The knot on his wrist, like a token of faith, encouraged him to press on despite the weeping heavens. At last, the shrine appeared before him. All this was not a dream. As illusions and reality intertwined, Dragon could no longer tell if the wetness on his face was from rain or tears. Chewing on a bottle, the years marked by zebra stripes, Dragon faintly remembered Rose's jar. He untied the rope, popped the cork, and thought, drinking this sake might just bring a miracle. As the sake hit his throat, a divine light flashed. Time began to rewind, and Dragon gradually regained Rose's memories, from birth to confused childhood. After Lily gave birth to Candy, she fell gravely ill and passed away. Tree, unable to fulfill his wife's dying wish, lost all faith in the divine, turning to politics not out of ambition, but to protect his family nearby under the burden of disgrace. The exchanged memories became clearer. Rose realized earlier than Dragon that their timelines were 3 years apart. In his heart, Dragon screamed, wanting Rose to leave with her family before the comet struck. Yet, he witnessed the tragic end of the girl. Time and space crossed again, and Dragon found himself in Rose's body just before the disaster. Waking from the dream, Dragon fought back tears, but when he embraced Rose, tears streamed down his face. His sister, unaware of her sister's emotions, noted that the comet would arrive tonight. There was still time to settle things. However, their grandmother saw through everything. She explained that Rose was not truly Rose. The Miyamizu family had a history of body swapping, like living a dream, but memories from dreams fade upon waking. Despite the impending disaster, no one in the town believed Rose's ramblings, except for John, who seemed more interested in blowing up the power station. They planned an emergency operation. John was in charge of preparing the water gel. Butterfly was to announce the evacuation over the high school's PA system, and Rose had to convince her father, the mayor, to coordinate the fire department and public evacuation. But the old-fashioned tree found his daughter's words utterly absurd. However, when Rose angrily grabbed her father's tie, the man's scalp tingled, and his voice trembled as he asked the unfamiliar Rose, "Who are you?" Elsewhere, Rose awoke from her dream to find the town gone. She realized in horror that she had perished in the comet disaster. The knot on her wrist connected to a lingering soul, and Dragon finally understood. 3 years ago, a girl spent a whole year's allowance to travel to Tokyo in search of me, despite not knowing me or Rose at that time. From hopeful to despondent, her heart must have ached tremendously. An encounter on the train left behind Rose's hair tie, but the girl's name slowly blurred in the sands of time. With tears in his eyes, Dragon ran towards Lake Kizaki, where time and space nearly overlapped. Desperately, he shouted Rose's name, and the girl heard him. Standing on the same land, they were within arm's reach, yet worlds apart. As the sun set and twilight approached, the two different timelines slowly merged. The outlines of the world became blurred, but they could clearly see each other. Tears filled the girl's eyes as she looked at the mud within reach. No amount of longing could match the power of calling out your name. Dragon untied the hair tie from his wrist, and Rose tied up her short hair. How wonderful it would be if this were their first meeting. As twilight was about to end, Dragon tenderly reminded Rose to protect herself before the comet fell, so they wouldn't forget each other's names. Dragon left a token of affection in Rose's palm, but as she began to write, everything beautiful abruptly stopped. The girl vanished in a brief connection of time and space, and the sound of the pen dropping echoed Dragon's heartbreak. The boy repeated the girl's name, fearing he might forget everything again. But as he tried to write her name, his memory blurred again. He couldn't remember why he was there, or even the girl's name. All he remembered was his desire to save her, his love for her. Tears were unstoppable, and his cries were filled with reluctance. People suffer from many ailments, but unrequited love is incurable. Every heartache reminded him of her. The comet streaked across the night sky. Rose's tears drifted with the wind, and John cut the locks at the power station. The youthful pulse exploded, spreading a fiery glow as lights began to go out, shrouding Lake Kizaki in darkness. The only brilliance was the comet in the sky, signaling disaster. Butterfly sounded the air raid alarm, urging everyone to evacuate to the high school with a sobbing voice. As Rose rushed to spread the word, she suddenly forgot Dragon's name. The mayor confirmed there was no fire on the mountain, and Butterfly was caught in the school's broadcast room. Just as disaster was about to strike, the Dream Star split. A meteor headed straight for the town, a beautiful astronomical phenomenon to all but a catastrophe for the town. Rose fell hard, enduring severe pain, trying to remember the boy's name, but only "I like you" remained in her palm. Unable to suppress her emotions any longer, tears overflowed. Love was too intense, but liking was just right. Yet how could such deep affection ever be forgotten? The belief to live on with your name grew even stronger. He rushed to his father's side. Comet fragments lit up the atmosphere, piercing through vast clouds and crashing to the ground. 5 years later, Dragon had lost his youthful appearance. He was interviewing for jobs. Life seemed to return to normal, yet he often felt a vague pain in his heart, as if he was searching for something or someone. The disaster of the comet splitting fell on the locks of the autumn festival, but miraculously, the fire avoided the disaster. Why does a landscape, now gone, still tug at his heart? Kron wore a wedding ring, and the happy person was Plant. Almost everyone was accompanied by happiness, except for a void in Dragon's heart. The melancholy of continuous autumn rain had not yet cleared when suddenly it was a snowy winter. Cherry blossoms fall at a rate of 5 centimeters per second, and so do snowflakes. Time flies, clouds roll by. Dragon often woke from dreams with tears in his eyes, and Rose felt the same. The world is really vast, so vast that there's no time for proper goodbyes. So vast that even in the same city, there's no chance to meet again. Maybe it was love, or maybe it was being moved, that allowed Dragon and Rose a fleeting glimpse on the tram. Just one look, and they were both unsettled. Finally, they found each other, these most familiar strangers, their eyes already red. That, I think I've seen you somewhere. Me too. Your name is... I think I've seen you somewhere. This once cliched line now had a romantic reason. Suddenly I realized your name was a matter from 6 years ago. Is the person who once watched a movie with you still by your side? Makoto Shinkai's 3-year promise has arrived. What about yours? Cherish the one in front of you, leave no regrets in life. Wishing all lovers in the world will eventually be together.